Thank you so much for joining all of us tonight and taking time out of your busy lives. We're super excited to have our colleagues from the North joining us today to talk to us about how we can Michigan our Ohio. I think I want that to be on a shirt in the red, wine, and blue shop, and we can get some buttons for that as well, because I saw a lady out for pizza the other day and she said, "Don't California my Ohio." And I thought, well, I for sure want to Michigan my Ohio these days, because I don't know about you, I'm having a lot of Michigan envy. So we're going to just delve into this straight away. I want this to be a really open conversation. So I will introduce myself. My name is Amy Fogel. I am the Deputy Program Director here at Red, Wine, and Blue. I am joined by some of my other Team Ohio colleagues. There's Missy McGinnis is joining us. She's one of our regional organizers in Cleveland. And then we have Jen Perez, our intrepid leader and our program director, and she's in the Cincinnati area. I don't think I saw any other of Team Ohio on here today. And then we are graced with the presence of some of our Michigan colleagues. We have Kelly Dillaha joining us. She's the program director in Michigan. And then it's Mandy Miner, if I'm saying that correctly, and she is one of the organizers as well in Michigan. Did I say that correctly?
Pretty close. It's my near. Like
Miner.
Mandy, so you're awesome. I want to be near you. I want to be near you in Michigan. Do good Michigan things like that. Near. But it's good.
Near. Okay. I love all of you Michiganders can like just blend everything into Michigan with like the Michigan hand and all that good stuff. All right. So let's go over a few rules. We're going to keep everybody muted. My colleagues are going to be dropping questions or keeping an eye on the questions in the chat. We're going to be dropping some links for ways for you to get engaged and be more informed and share all of this with your friends. So if you want to, please drop any questions that you have, or you can write them down and hold them to the end, and we will have time later towards the end of the program to kind of open up the floor and have a conversation together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say, Kelly, I would love for you to come off mute. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from in Michigan, and how did you get started in this work?
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Dillaha. I live in Birmingham, Michigan, which is in Oakland County, just north of Detroit. And I have been doing women's issue work and grassroots work for a little over 5 years now. I used to work in higher ed. And then all of a sudden I had to leave because my mother had Alzheimer's and I was taking care of her. And that experience got me very revved up about what happens in our government and how it affects people, because I didn't like seeing my mom suffer and the way we treat seniors in our country. And so that's how I got started in politics. I have run for a local office. I almost won against a millionaire who's been in office for 30 years. I came within a point and a half. But I'm actually glad I didn't win, because then that is how I made my way to Red, Wine, and Blue. And I've been here for almost a year now, which I can't even believe. It's been 10 and a half months now. I was with a local organization in the Detroit area, one of the founding members, and we just really formed in 2016 after the election and started getting involved in some of the issues that were Michigan based at the time. A lot of, again, reaper rights and some other things that we were talking about. And I think that we were really instrumental in the 2018 election here, which is what brought in our trifecta of women leaders. So Gretchen Whitmer is our governor, Dana Nessel is our attorney general, and Jocelyn Benson is our Secretary of State. So I think the work that we were doing brought them in. We were very instrumental in that, especially in Oakland County, getting that vote for them. And then that started the beginnings of possibilities for us to start looking at issues that are important to women and helping to get some of those going. And that's how the conversations originally began with reproductive rights and how we could do a ballot drive to make changes to our Constitution. I obviously was more on the volunteer side of that, but gradually, because of my role in my previous organization, kind of got brought into it. And so about this time, in 2020, well, we're so like beginning of 2022. So we started collecting signatures. That was our laws work a little bit differently. So we had about a 6-month period where we were collecting signatures in the snow, in the rain, in the heat, and then once we got enough signatures, we were able to go for it really in November, and it was amazing teamwork across the state that brought it over the line. But we'll talk more about that, about why teamwork's important today. But I've been involved in this for a while, and I love grassroots, and I love Red, Wine, and Blue. I love that we're bringing women who have never been part of politics before into the conversation, because this is where we belong.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I think that perfectly segues into introducing your colleague, Mandy. So Mandy, if you want to pop yourself off mute, and I would love for you to give us the same little background, how you got started in this work and where you're from.
Well, I grew up in Indiana, in a very rural place, a 2-traffic light town. They only got the 2nd traffic light after I started driving. And now I live in West Michigan, which is a really red place. And so as a result of that, most of the time that I've lived here, myself and almost everyone I knew was very, very closeted about our political beliefs, because you just kind of have to be. But then 2016 happened, and we were all a little shocked. We had a plan to go out the day after the election and celebrate our first woman in the White House, and then that didn't work out. But we went out anyway and had some sorrow together, and decided that it felt really good to be together with other people, mostly women, and that we needed to have that connection. And so we formed a secret Facebook group with like a dozen moms. And as of this morning, today, 623 people later, we've flipped a school board. We've gotten a number of people in different offices locally and beyond. And so we just try to do good things. And it's so much more fun together. And every so often we go and, we have a beverage together. So that's probably what drew me to Red, Wine, and Blue, because it's just it's the best way to do things with other people and awesome women, and the occasional beverage of choice. But yeah, and my motivation, what really got me started doing political things was school board issues, because we'd had a school board where everybody had been elected as incumbents. And I knew our superintendent had been around for a while, like 33 years. That's a long time in superintendent land. And I knew eventually he would retire or something. And I wanted to get good people on our board to select the next superintendent. And I did. And we have a really amazing new superintendent now. So, and just the more that you do these good things, the more good people you meet and the more stuff you get done. And I love it. And now I get to do it for like my actual job.
I love it. I mean, I think that's just like the absolute perfect story for Red, Wine, and Blue, because I think that we all live in these areas, being in Ohio, you tend to think that you need to be a little bit quiet. And that's something that I am working on, of like not being really comfortable with how I feel about things, and really sitting with my views on abortion and access to care and gun legislation and all those types of things. And then once you start kind of having that moment of braveness and being more open to it, I think you start to attract those individuals. And then there you go. It's like a few women get together and they change the trajectory of their community. So it's an amazing story. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Can I just get one more shout out too to our very first woman who's the head of the Senate, just another awesome women power happening in Michigan, along with Big Gretch, as we like to call her, our governor, and Dana Nessel and Jocelyn Benson. Like, we just keep putting women in awesome positions and awesome things happening.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, this is definitely not a correlation and causation thing. Like, you have all these women now all of a sudden showing up in Michigan. And I'm going to say that is proof is in the pudding, that when women are in charge, good shit gets done. and we start making progress. And I absolutely love it. So I'm hoping that there's maybe some of that trickle down economics will happen here in Ohio, and we'll start getting some of that momentum. So all joking aside, I think that we all know as women, as members of our community, moms, we're involved with a lot of stuff, and we know that the magic happens and the movement happens with people. Nothing can get done without the passion behind these types of initiatives. So that's what I really want to focus on today, because I know from hearing Kelly talk over the past, last summer, about how critical it was for Michigan's success with Prop 3. It really came down to their volunteers. And not only were their volunteers getting the work done, but they were getting it done better than the folks that were being trained and paid to do the work. So is that true, Kelly?
It absolutely is. And it all comes down to, I kind of said it, the secret sauce is working together, putting egos aside and just saying, like, we're here to do the work. We're going to get the credit in the end. Just do the work together, whatever organizations you can bring in, whatever individuals you can bring in to work together, and make sure everyone is trained. And that's what we really emphasized a lot here. Just making sure that people understood there's so many pieces to this. It's not just someone standing on a corner with a petition. You've already gone through so much to get the wording right and get it printed. Then it has to get distributed to all the volunteers. The volunteers need to be trained to make sure, you want to make sure all that work you do, you want to make sure that they're correct. And because if you don't, you lose all that work that you did. So you want to make sure everyone's trained, everyone's motivated. There are times when you have to remember we are in the majority. The majority of people believe in safe reproductive care. But it's easy to get down if you do have one conversation with someone that doesn't go the right way. It is easy to get down, and you have to lift each other up and keep each other motivated to get out there in the sun, in the rain, in the snow. We did all of that. And just, working together throughout that whole process to get the job done in the end.
Yeah. I also think, the volunteers are the ones that are going to be living here. They're the ones who really are going to reap the benefits or the downfall of the work that was being done. And so their heart and souls were in it.
Can
Mandy,
I just
do you have
chime
anything?
in on that? Like, as a person who has a uterus and have two children who have uteruses, there's no passion that you're going to find from somebody who comes in from another state that's going to even come close to comparing to taking care of yourself and your kids and their kids, and like enshrining their basic human rights, just fundamental human rights. There isn't anything that's to motivate. I don't know. There wasn't anything that would motivate me more, especially to go out and talk about something I would ordinarily probably not just talk about with anybody I saw. But last summer, that all just changed because I needed to get some signatures.
Yeah, there was a job to be done. So, everybody has to step out of their comfort zone and get out there and get the work done. So you both have mentioned motivation. And I would love for both of you to touch on like what, Mandy, you just said what motivated you, but like, what did you see as the overarching theme of motivation for volunteers, and particularly in those times when things got rough? I think that most of us here in Ohio can say it felt a little bit terrible when we saw the first of these counterattacks come out against this reproductive initiative. It is enraging and it's difficult to listen to. And I think I'd love to have a conversation about staying motivated, but also delving into a little bit about how we stay in our lane and how we stay focused. Because I know that here at Team Ohio, we struggle sometimes with making sure that we understand exactly where we can be the best in the space and how we focus on that. And I would love to talk about how we do that with our volunteers here in Ohio as well.
So I think maybe you just mentioned that staying in the lane right now, the focus is on gathering the signatures. You will have some conversation. Mandy, you can back me up if you think that's true. You have some conversations during this phase. The conversations And the techniques that Red Wine and Blue teaches with the relational organizing are so helpful in the second phase when you're having deeper conversations about this. And you will, there's a lot of storytelling. There's a lot of just sharing very personal things that happen during that second part of it. And you feel it, and you do feel it because it is personal to each one of us. I have college age sons. This is important to me. It's important to Mandy. She's got children as well. So a lot of the people who are coming to sign are coming because they care passionately about this issue. So that's the thing you have to remember, is that the majority of people do agree with this and they want to sign. I think the things that motivated me along the way, yes, there were a couple of times when I had days where it was a little rougher for whatever reason. Like it just felt like a long day. People weren't passing by where I was I didn't get as many signatures as I hoped that day. But there were like really amazing stories along the way. And this was actually towards the end of the time we were gathering signatures. We did this huge event, ironically, near Mandy's house. I was on the other side of the state that day, and we had 1,200 people show up to sign. It was incredible. And I had
a lot of people I later asked said they already signed there too. But
yes,
whatever.
Sorry.
I'm not bitter about that.
But we did. So I had an entire family step forward. There were like 10 of them. And the grandpa was a grandpa and grandma with their daughter and her husband, and then their kids. And they all stepped forward together. And the grandfather said, our entire family is here because this affects every generation of our family. We want to sign together. And I'm like, oh. So those moments, those kind of moments and those stories, you will have them. And that's what motivates you to keep going, because you understand that I felt it personally, that unlike a lot of other volunteer things I've done in my life, like this felt super personal to me, to my kids' future. But then when you start to talk to people and you see that they feel it too, and that's why they desperately want to sign, you'll feel it. There'll be lines of people waiting to sign for this as soon as they know that they can. I think you'll have it, and you'll feel that motivation because people will share their stories with you. And those are the reasons why you keep going.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Ohio that like you've got like this game plan already in place. Like we didn't have like our whole network of troublemakers. Like that just wasn't a thing yet when we were gathering signatures. And I did it in a more low-key way. Like you need all the people gathering signatures in all the ways, but like I was more I got some of the petitions and I kept them with me all the time. And I shared in my secret group so people knew, and I set up ways for them to come to my house and sign. And then even people outside of the group, their parents would want to sign. They'd be like, can we come to your house and get our parents to sign? I'm like, of course. And I am also like, I'm involved in some different organizations with like youth. And so lots of girls and moms. And so I just would be like, hey, I'm not asking you as the director of this thing. I'm just me as a person, want to sign this thing for fundamental human rights. And almost all of them said yes. And a few people said no. And it was really like not a big deal. And they just declined. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. So I just asked all the people around me, but I didn't necessarily like go out. Except I did do this one thing that is really red, wine, and blue friendly. I think it's, again, why I was destined to work here. I would host what I called sip-in signs. So I would tell the people where I was going to be, and then I'd go out and like sit on the patio of some place in our downtown, have my little, frozen cider. And then people would come by and I just kind of like slide out my petition, they'd sign it and I'd put it away. I mean, you want to be careful of the rules and everything. You need to be in public spaces and whatever those rules are in Ohio. But like, these were people who knew me personally who were coming to sign. So I wasn't out like shouting in a restaurant about signing up. Like that's probably not.
Yes, we don't want anybody being escorted out of the local Panera. So we will be careful with those things. But maybe you both can share with our volunteers and everybody who's on tonight, what are some of the ways that you got signatures. What were some of the kind of what I like to call the easy button volunteering? Like what Mandy was saying, she just kind of kept it on her person. We are going to have that opportunity here in Ohio. But then some of the larger scale ones, Kelly, like the ones that drive 1,200 people, can you kind of take us through the spectrum and what you felt really worked well and what was a dud?
Some of the ones that were really helpful for us, and again, I know if you have, I think Red, Wine, and Blue is coordinating this a little better. Like Mandy said, we didn't at the beginning, this was all very ad hoc, but farmers markets, those are your places. People love a farmers market. They go there with their family on the weekend. They're casual. And like that was a huge place of success all around the state was farmers markets. I don't know what your rules are for like festivals and things, but a lot of, if you know that there's a big festival in your community where tons of, you want to go to places where there's lots of foot traffic that are friendly. So there's a big park near my house. It's in a downtown area. And everyone has to kind of go to this one entrance to go into this big park system. So people would just say, meet me by the duck pond. And someone would be out by the duck pond. So you had to pass the duck pond to get to the walking path or ride your bike and everything. So hundreds of people pass by there every day. Very casual, very easy. What do you think, Mandy? What other kind of places can you think of?
For sure, the farmers market. And like, even again, in my super red town, that was a hot place. Also, like our Dems office offered a drive-through petition signing because people wanted to sign so badly, but they could, like, they just set it up so they could drive through and sign. And I know that they got just tons of signatures that way. And then, you know, like, get yourselves a button and wear it. If people see your button, they'll ask you, they'll give you a nod or whatever. And then you can just be like, have you had a chance to sign? And then you just whip that petition out. You know, you just go where the people are. And then when the people come to you, make sure you've got one. And like, I think, you know, it depends on where you are. If you're in a place where you feel like you need to be a little more low key, then, you know, then maybe you're not going to be out with a giant sign on the side of the highway if you feel like you're in a really rural place. But that doesn't mean there aren't people there who want to sign your petitions, because like we talked about, we are massively in the majority. People want health care. So it's just a matter of trying all the things, and then you know, gathering, because the number of petitions that we got, the signatures, was more than anything else people have ever signed a petition for in Michigan, like a record number. And the images of those boxes and boxes and boxes stacked up, and like every one of those has like 20 names on it, and there's like how many pieces of paper in every box and how many boxes, like, it's just, you know, that's powerful. And that is really like how our democracy is supposed to work, that if we feel strongly about something, we use the systems in place to get things done. And so, like, I guess I want to say to people who might not be in a powerhouse mode where they think I'm going to get 10,000 signatures, like, that's okay, because your 100 signatures are all going to count in that total. And so that is just as important.
We found if you can find places where it's great to go, door to door or get 1 and 2 signatures here and there. But it's also really helpful if there's ways that you can get people to come to you, or you can be where lots of people are going to be. So you get that bang for your buck. If you're going to spend an hour, you might as well do it in a place where lots of people are. Another thing that we did, I can think a couple of things, ideas. We had a table at a Pride festival that got a ton of signatures at that. I know we did a couple of Pride festivals I can think of. Anything where there's like large volumes of people who are open to, you know, progressive ideas.
Yeah.
And
I just saw Missy dropped in the chat, and we will also do a follow-up email after this. We have a form to fill out. So if you are thinking, as you're sitting here right now and you're like, oh, I know, like, I can think of 3 farmers markets that are about to stand up within a like 1.5 mile radius of my house. I can think of a public park that is really popular that everybody takes their dogs to go hiking through, that, you know, you could sit out at the one bench beforehand. And then I know for sure that we always have a big pride parade here in Dayton, and that's another way. So no one knows your community better than you know your community. And so we are just a scrappy team of 5 here at Team Ohio. We have a wonderful national organization behind us, but it is going to take all of us to do this. We don't know everything. And so we're going to need your expertise of your community to help us get this done. And, you know, I think it's really great, Mandy, that you say, like, you know, I wasn't out there all the time doing these giant events. I think that everybody on this call, and whenever you talk to a friend, it's expectation setting for yourself. Like, it isn't all or nothing with this. If all of us pitch in a little bit and tag in and tag out as it gets too hard, or like, I have 3 kids and, you know, spring break is coming up, like, we can all do this. And if you just get 15 of your friends to sign and fill half of a booklet, hey, that's going to be a huge contribution if a bunch of us do that. So that was really great information.
The signatures don't count less if you got 20 and somebody else got 200.
Exactly.
Like, they
that's
all
like
add
such a
up
good point.
I don't want to oversell. So we don't normally have 1,200 people. That was only one event.
That's the benchmark now, Kelly.
Yeah, it was. But most of the time what we were doing is these small, like, you know, one or people working in pairs, going to different events. We did try to, the organization I was working for, and I think I've shared all this with Red, White, and Blue, so I'm sure they're on board for this. We tried to work together with other organizations to let people know where we were going to be, so we weren't all at the same place. And
yes,
we use social media a lot. And I'm not talking about fancy advertising. I mean, blasting it out to our, like, we kind of used a website, and then everyone was sharing that website, and everyone was communicating to the people who ran that so that we could get it out. It was super grassrootsy. But another place you might try too, so social media, you want to let people know where you're at. But the other thing that you might be surprised is sometimes businesses will help you out. So we had
for sure.
a craft store, a local craft store that has like all kinds of funky jewelry and stuff. Their building was a standalone building, so they didn't have to worry about neighbors being upset about people being in line. They were getting tons of people, and there were so many people that they ended up coming back a second day, and then the next weekend too, for 2 more days. They thought they were just going to be there for 1 day. So you'll be surprised what business owners will help you as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I've been trying to rack my brain around here as to like where, because I have heard from organizers from Kansas, you know, we've had opportunities to talk to a lot of really great folks in the space of saying that drive-throughs are very successful. And we just did one this weekend, and I heard that we had like 50, 60, 70 cars lined up. That makes it really easy, and it removes a lot of the barrier, particularly for people who might have mobility issues or might be older. It keeps it really easy for them just to pull on up, sign, and be on their way. I'm trying to look through my questions here. I wanted to touch really quickly, and I meant to bring this up, but Kelly mentioned relational organizing, and I didn't want to glance past that. I know that most of you are probably pretty familiar with Red, White, and Blue, but I wanted to just make sure that everybody knew what we were saying when we said relational organizing. And that's just talking to your friends, talking to your family, your neighbor, the woman that you sit next to every freaking weekend at the t-ball field, those types of things. Those are your network. Of course, I didn't think that I could possibly make it the entire event. I'm busy. When she wants to know when I'd be done, as if I haven't answered this question before I started this. I will be done in about a half hour, so I need you to go. You want to say good night to everybody?
Good night.
And see, even in the Fogel household, we do Christmas pajamas. You got to wear them almost year round because they're the best, aren't they? Okay, I'm going to see if I can get my mom brain turned off here. I would love to hear, what do you think was your failing? I think it's always important to talk about like where your blind spots were. If you could go back and do this all over again, what would you do differently?
One thing, okay, I'll answer organizationally and I'll answer personally.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing that made me worry that we weren't going to cross the finish line is that we weren't working together early enough. So a lot of the earlier efforts were people just going and standing. I mean, this was back in like January, February of 2022, standing in the snow at, outside at events trying to, oh, that's another thing. Concerts. If you have like Royal
Ooh,
Oak,
that's a good idea.
Royal Oak Music Theater, Royal Oak is like a suburb of Detroit. So there'll be indie bands there or comedians. That's great shows, comedian shows. And you just literally walk down the line while people are waiting to check in to go in. That's a great one. Anyway, I think we didn't work together early enough and we didn't see the benefit of, being in places, meeting people where they're at instead of making people work really hard to find the petition. We didn't make it easy for them as a network of organizations. For me personally, I think the thing that I wish I would have learned earlier was that we're in the majority. People do want to talk about this. They want to share their stories. They want to know that someone else believes what they believe. And I was too scared, embarrassed. I don't know what word I want to use. When I ran for office in 2020, even though the office I was running for didn't involve reproductive care very much, I was kind of advised not to talk about it because I was running in a leaning red area. And it was so silly. If I would have just been myself during that election, if I would have been myself when I was collecting signatures at the beginning, I would have had more courage and I probably would have been a lot more successful personally with what I was collecting.
Yeah, I think it's unraveling decades of like social conditioning that, you didn't want to rock the boat. You tried to be really polite. And I think that we're at kind of like a societal and generational tipping point where I want it to now be the opposite. I want all of us who believe in this to finally have the comfort within our own selves to really own it and put that out into the world. So thank you. Mandy, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I want to say not rocking the boat has clearly not worked out for any of us very well. And we need to just be over that. It is time for boat rocking. I don't know. I guess my regret is that I did not know how to get out there and be collecting signatures sooner. So I think, again, though, like you're in such an awesome position in Ohio that you have all these people today on this call listening to this, and you're going to be able to get them so much information about how to do it. And I think I want to echo like making it easy for people. So prior to coming to Red, Wine, and Blue, I was what I call myself a professional volunteer. So I do a lot of things and with a lot of people who are also volunteers. And so, making it easy for them to find their way into what you want them to do and helping empower them to do that. And like we've talked about, that there's a lot of different ways to do this. So that's just, not rocking the boat. That's just not working out for any of us anymore. And you do have to find some, courage equals vulnerability. And so you do have to like be willing to be a little bit exposed and we're out of your comfort zone. But like, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
That's so not worth it for you or your daughters or your granddaughters. Like, it's not an option. So
just like Jen just said, we gotta Brene Brown, you gotta just dig a little deep into being uncomfortable and a little vulnerable. Let me see. Sorry, I'm also dealing with a cough drop. So let's talk a little bit about, I have a couple like things I'd want to hit up before we open up discussion with everybody else. I think that probably a barrier is that people are kind of maybe afraid of the haters out there. So what was that experience like? Like, did you find like, oh my God, there was always like one person there, or were you pleasantly surprised? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean,
Go
in
ahead,
my
Mandy.
low-key quiet collection, I had a couple people very politely decline, and that was it. There was like, and I always offered it to them as an option. Like, hey, I have this if you'd like to sign it. Like, I didn't push it on people, but like 87% of them were like, heck yeah, I'm so happy you have this. I've been wanting to put my signature on that. So I didn't have a hard time with, but I didn't have tens of thousands of people. I might have had more haters if I was out there at that volume. But I also like did a lot of phone banking and other things during the election cycle, and I don't care anymore. I'm doing what I think is right and what needs to get done. And that's that. And the other people can do their own thing, and that's their thing. And I just don't let it bother me.
I agree with Mandy. I didn't experience I was at protesting at the Supreme Court when that we were waiting to find out this was November of 2021. And I was surrounded by Westboro Baptist and the entire student body of Liberty University screaming in my ear for 8 hours. That was bad. I didn't experience anything like that collecting signatures though. Honestly, people would just say, no, thank you. And I didn't really have anyone being hostile towards me. It was more the no, thank you. But I think a valuable tool that Red, Wine, and Blue taught me was kind of how to, if someone's willing to engage in a conversation, like say, I don't think I want to sign that. And if you have the opportunity to speak to them, and this will be like after you get past the signature phase, you'll have more conversations like this, but just try to find a way to have find a common value that you share. So, hey, like Mandy just said, we all want our daughters to have access to the healthcare they need. That's why I support this petition drive. So that's usually what the method that Red, Wine, and Blue teaches in our seminars on how to deal with how to do relational organizing and how to get issue-based, have those kind of conversations. And I think that kind of helps me a lot as I try to find a common value and then say why I'm taking the action I am and hope that they'll support. But like Mandy said, it's not very many people, ironically, that said no, at least in my experience. Most of them would just say no, thank you, and walk on. And it wasn't that many people. Most people wanted to sign.
And really, it's their loss. Like, you're offering them an amazing opportunity to protect fundamental human rights. If they don't want to participate in that, that's their own sad situation.
You're like losing out. Well, you're talking about how to talk about this. I would love for people to drop in the chat or let us know. Like, Team Ohio, we've been working nonstop trying to put together programming for this. We hope that we are trying to make it as easy as possible. We are building websites, creating forms. We are trying very hard, and we're hoping to connect. We are partners with both coalitions. And so Red, Wine, and Blue is really looking like, we just want to be the helpers. We want to be the ones who are going to just come in and get shit done because this is our community and we want to help the common cause. And we are working on getting stuff set up for both coalitions so that there's like a one-stop shop for volunteers so that they don't have to be like, what's this doing? Okay, what about this group? Oh, nope, they don't have anything near me. Like, we are trying to pull it all together, and we are trying to get as much information in one spot for all of you to be able to access at your fingertips. But I'd love to know if you would like us to put together another event where we talk about how you have these conversations, how you engage with certain types of questions that you might think that you come across. We have some really great team members that are rock stars at this, and we could help you with that. And then also, the best way to dispel misinformation and disinformation, because as we've seen just in the past week, the disinformation factory has it's blown the whistle, and it has started churning out the just flat out lies about this. And so how we can effectively communicate what the truth is without inadvertently propagating and fanning the flame to misinformation and disinformation. Because I think a lot of us, which myself included, made mistakes about that before I started working in this space. And then you hear some of the tips and tricks and you're like, oh, wow, that makes sense. I never thought of it that way. So hopefully, if you're interested, we'll definitely see if we can do that for everybody.
I hope
Yeah,
you
and
will.
my
I hope you will.
My
Yeah.
hunch is that Ohio will probably be similar to Michigan, and the disinformation machine will be on full power,
Yeah.
cranking it out. And,
Yes.
and so
And from what I hear,
you
it's a
need a good
playbook that they're
plan.
just cutting and pasting. Yeah. Well, I'm
Hey,
going through my list. Yeah, go ahead,
sorry
Jen.
to interrupt you. We do have a few questions in the chat that we wanted to make sure Kelly and Mandy had a chance to answer as well.
Yep, absolutely. I was gonna say, if we want to remove spotlight and
Yeah.
just kind of open it up to the whole group, we can go through questions. You can raise your hand.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly and Mandy, for just chatting with me. It was really great. I hope that that was super helpful for everybody who joined us. Let's see. Here, I'm going to take Mandy's spotlight off. Jen, or was it Missy? Were you keeping track of the questions? Let's see here.
Yeah, we had one from.
I think we both were. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. We had one from Anne who was
Go
asking
ahead, Jen. You got it.
about this 1200 signature event that you all mentioned. Can we learn a little bit more about what that was, or how it went?
I will say that was towards the end, and in Michigan, by that point, there was a big frenzy where everyone was trying to get to a location. It was a huge coordinated effort. There was one of the organizations did have some money behind it to be able to, provide refreshments at the location. So it was at a brewery in Grand Rapids. There were lots of groups that were all pushing the same event, and so through all of the social media that was being used, and advertising, we were even doing by that point, Red, Wine, and Blue was involved, and we were backing it with some paid advertising in the area as well to try to get people to the locations where the signature gathering was. All of that power behind it is what drove the 1,200 people to that location. And we literally had lines around a city block. It was amazing. I think I worked for 5 hours straight collecting, just sitting there. I had like 4 petitions going at once. Like, it was crazy, but it worked out. It was great. Most of our events, though, I would say, were more us going to either we were going to locations where we knew a lot of people were going to be, like going to a place where a concert was, people were waiting in line to get into a concert or to see a comedian. You could get a few hundred signatures at a pop that way. So there were some people love gathering the signatures. Once you start doing it, it can be very addictive. And there were little incentives that some groups were doing for people who are gathering signatures. There were multiple people who gathered over 1,000 signatures because they just loved doing it, and it was social. So they would go out in groups of 3 or 4, work those concert lines, and then, go have a drink and go home and then do it again the next day. So it was getting very, it was a contest. It was social.
It's so important to hydrate.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I will caution, you do need to take care of yourself, because because this is such a personal issue for people, it's easy to get very caught up in, if I don't do this, it won't happen. And there were days where my husband was like, you need to sit down. You need to drink a glass of water. I get like that. I tend to get like that. And we're in the middle of another coalition right now in Michigan that's got me the same way right now. So yeah, for different reasons, different personal reasons. We've got
Yeah, and
we've got
that's
our gun violence one going right now. And so, yeah.
maybe next year. Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
no, maybe in 2 weeks.
no, I
Couple
mean
weeks,
like
2
for
weeks.
us. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
maybe we can do
We'll
this
get you
next
guys.
year.
We'll get you next year for
We
that one.
take two. Yeah, and that was on my list over here of like to talk about self-care. And it is super important to like take that time and to tap in and tap out. And I feel like I'm sometimes sounding like a broken record of saying like it is a relay race. Like you're gonna have to hand the baton as you step back out to take care of yourself, because it is emotionally charging, because it feels so critical. Like this is a really big deal. This is people's livelihoods, the agency, and it feels deeply personal. And so,
Well, one of the things that you have that like really is going to help you is the fact that you've got all these people on this call. You've got all these women in Ohio who all over the state you're doing this together. So you don't have to do like, even though it is easy to get caught up in if I don't do this, the entire future of the universe will crash mentality, because I go there a lot too. Kelly and I can relate on that. But we don't have to do it by ourselves. You've got all these super cool women who are going to be all over the state doing that. And so like just remembering that, like, and maybe that's a thing that you have is like a check-in session where you talk about how it's going and what's gone well in different places, and you can have people compare notes from all over. I mean, clearly we love Zoom, so that's a good way to do that and get feedback from people. And also just like, yeah, like maybe you just all check in and have hydrate in whatever way is appropriate for yourselves, and see how is it going. It's good to have like not just the training, but also like it's good to have times to check back in with the other people who are fighting the same fight.
We did that a lot in Michigan, with not just within Red, White, and Blue. We did a lot of check-ins for the state. And, we had a couple of motivators where we had special guests that people, Mallory McMorrow is my state senator. And so she came and did a couple of events for us to try to keep volunteers motivated. So just like having little surprises for each other and keeping going with the momentum.
Those are all great suggestions. Thank you. So I see we saw some other things pop in there. Jen, you want to pop back off and let's make sure that we take care of everybody's questions for them today.
Yeah, we actually had two from Kathy. So her first question is, what percentage of your signatures were found to be invalid in Michigan?
I don't remember an exact percentage. I mean, there was, we allowed for that. So the amount that we were collecting included what we thought was going to be thrown out, and we still exceeded it by a couple 100,000. So I will say that, and I don't remember the exact percentages. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of another campaign right now, so the numbers are very mushy in my head right now. I will say that the paid volunteers that came from out of state or even in the state, paid volunteers, their success rate was much, much lower than volunteers who were doing it because they cared about the issue. And that is because we care about it so much that we wanted to make sure every signature was right. So we did the trainings, and I felt like the people who were volunteering out of their own passion wanted to do it right. And so they paid more attention to the training and made sure their signatures were collected correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Kelly. And then Kathy's also asking about a sip-in sign. Doesn't that count as an incentive or a gift in exchange for a signature? So I think this is related to in Ohio. I don't know what your laws are in Michigan, but like we can't coerce or offer a gift in exchange for signatures. And the advice that we've been given from legal counsel is that if you are offering, say, like stickers, as opposed to maybe a beer, if they're offered to anyone who comes and talks to you, then it's not like a one-for-one exchange. So then it's not an incentive. I think similarly, if there's an event at a bar, for example, you're either providing drink tickets to everybody or nobody, right? It's not.
That's what
if you
they
sign,
did.
Yeah, I'll give you a beer, right? It's like, join us for a beer. And oh, by the way, if you want to sign, we're here for that too, you know.
That's what they did. And they did that we did it with much less success. For whatever reason, that Grand Rapids one just caught on fire because it was right at the end. And so many groups were promoting it that it just was huge.
Yeah.
But that was, that takes money to offer that kind of incentive, like not incentive, to offer that kind of gathering.
And when I did my like individual ones, like that was basically like, hey, I'm going to sit here and drink my beverage. If you want to join me, friends, local friends, and buy yourself a beverage, or if you want to come past the patio, I'll slide this petition out. So there was, it was really just me having a beverage then as an excuse to have a reason for people to come and be in an easy location to get their signatures.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but just getting a button and wearing it, people will just pay attention. Like people you wouldn't think. The guy checking out my groceries one day was just like, nice button. And I had kind of forgotten I had it on. And I was like, of course, like in red, wine, and blue style, I'm like, will you be voting absentee or in person? And then are you registered? Anyway, you're not like that far yet. You're just getting the signatures, but you just get in that mode to get it done.
We've got buttons are coming. We are working on that. T-shirts are up on our shop, and we will be having stickers. So all good things are coming. Anything else, Jen, that we should highlight? Because I do want to make sure that we kind of get to our call of action and up and may get everybody on their way, because now I've had a second child make their way down here, starting to camp out, because you can't go to bed without them.
Right. So. Yes. My 8-year-old came in as well. She didn't come close enough to get on camera, but she came in as well. The only other question that I see is Kristen's asking about this big event. Was the brewery on board and like advertising as well, or was it just these organizations that were collecting the signatures?
Yeah, it was the organizations collecting the signatures. But so I don't know what your rules are there, but like if you have locations that are willing to host you, like I said, we had businesses that didn't serve food, that were any kind of business that will allow you to be in there on their premises gathering signatures, that it's great because there's already foot traffic. So
yeah, great.
And you all know who those businesses are. Like I can think of 3 off the top of my head that would say, yep, you can come, set up at the bar and we'll do drink tickets for the cause. All right. Well, Missy, do you want to hop off? Say hello to everybody.
Yeah, thanks. I think a lot of you I recognized from being on the call last night for the training. So I'm so glad you guys are here and just how passionate you are about this initiative. We are fired up in Ohio, and we just can't wait to continue the effort that started last weekend. But once we get many more petitions printed, we're ready to go.
Yes. So I know that both coalitions are having a bigger launch this weekend when it comes to petition signing. Red, Wine, and Blue will be continuing to work on events as well. We will be having a tiny bit of downtime because we do have quite a few spring breaks coming up. So I'm sure that most of you know what that's like. And so we'll be taking a little bit of time with our family to regroup and do self-care, and then we'll be ready to hit the ground running in April. But don't fret, we will still have content coming from you. We'll still be keeping you up to date. We've dropped some links. I'm sure, like Missy said, most of you, if you're here with us tonight, have already been trained. If you're not, make sure that you join us, or Protect Choice Ohio is having their training once a week on Thursdays. We're going to share a form with you that you can send to your friends. Try to bring along a friend, because what we've learned is everything's better when you do it with a friend, and it feels less lonely, and it's just how you get stuff done. So I encourage you to invite. This is how Missy is. Missy would be like, invite 10. And I'm the person who's like, just tell one person. So maybe if you're somewhere on the spectrum, you can figure out what kind of person you are. Are you a Missy or you are an Amy? It takes all of us. But make sure that you invite at least someone. And we hope to see you on more trainings. We're going to put more stuff together. Hopefully we'll talk about misinformation and disinformation. I think I've covered it all. Am I forgetting anything? No. All right. Any last minute takers on questions before we go? We have just a few minutes.
There is one more question from Kathy asking when we expect to have more petitions. And as Amy mentioned, Red, White, and Blue, majority of our team is taking some time away over the next week. And so we are really kind of laying low until early April. So we will have more petitions in hand. There will be some events planned by the coalition partners this weekend. So we can connect you to those organizations if you're not already. But as far as Red, White, and Blue having petitions in hand, it will be early April for you to get them from us.
Yeah. And if you're desperate or have something going on, please write us at like ohio@redwine.blue. We'll make a connection. You know, we're across the whole state through the seas, and then I'm here in the one little D city. But we'll try to help you out and make something happen if you've got something that you feel like you just can't wait. But
Hey, I wanted to offer something to all of you as a challenge as we get into this, as the weather breaks. Team Michigan is willing to come down to Toledo if you want to do an event in Toledo.
Ooh.
If you want to have like a Toledo day and get a bunch of people to Toledo, we will come down and help you gather signatures.
Kelly, that is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
That would be amazing.
I just volunteered us all, Mandy, but I think we're game for it. Plus,
Mandy's like, wait a minute.
One of our team members is from Toledo, so she'll be down for that.
Yeah.
That's exciting because
I want to meet all these cool
Toledo.
Ohio women.
Right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to say thank you so much from our friends from the North for joining us. We really appreciate it. Kelly has been an absolute gold mine. She's been a resource to us. I think this is the 4th, 5th, 6th time we've gotten Kelly on a Zoom with Team Ohio to pick her brain. And so I was so happy that we were able to have a chance to share their information. I'm hoping that we kind of took a little bit of the bite out of this and it seems a little bit more consumable and doable. We'll follow up with email. If that's it, I'm going to say good night and thank you to everybody. Thank you again, Kelly and Mandy, and to my team members, and everybody go off and have a great evening.